Hi, I'm Jon Atack,
Hi, I'm Ursula Wake. This is at Lyrical Wax.
and today we're going to read some of our own poems that actually aren't about each other,
Yeah,
just to prove that we do have some other subject matter.
we've got lives.
Yeah, sort of. Though not the most important part of our lives, the other part. But yeah, moving on swiftly. This is something that I recently wrote, and it's dedicated to SJ. He knows who he is. So it was written on the 19th of March at 9:50 p.m. You have to be scrupulous about these things.
You do, don't you?
And it's called Coming To. Coming to. I cannot feel the back of the blade as they cut away my clothes. Cannot feel the cloth viscous with my blood. I am drenched in dread. How much of my body is left? How much of the pain can I take when the pain surely arrives? Oh, for the insignificance, any hint of anonymity, shred of privacy, quark of dignity. But eyes stare, mouths wince, as I am wheeled by beyond help or hope. Why do we blame others for their injury? Presume they should have stood aside in time before the runaway truck ploughed into their backs. At the child level, the unthought foundation of the self, these judgments lurk and are doled out without thought. At least I can see. And sound begins to murmur at the boundary of my mind. Perhaps I can wiggle a finger. Do I still have my fingers? Perhaps I can wiggle a toe. Here is the sheer metaphor for love. The soul destroyed, a life blighted, every gift spurned, beyond numb disbelief, terrified to find out how little is left of you.
Good luck, SJ, in your future.
Yeah, he'll be all right.
He will be
We'll
all
look
right.
after him.
And fortunately, yes, we know that love isn't always like that.
No, we do. We do.
We do.
It can be extraordinarily pleasant, which came as a little bit of a surprise to me, I must say. But here we are, almost a year on now. So,
However, my first one that I'm going to read is actually another very downbeat one. I'm not a very angry person, and I certainly don't write much angry poetry, but here you go. This one is called The Erosioneer. You drizzle bringer, truth mincer, doubt knitter, parade pisser, comfort shredder, love choker, peace jerker, freedom leecher, reason pulper, sex fucker, joy scragger, goodwill flayer, thief.
brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. This goes back yonks. This was written on the 17th of February 1988.
Whoa.
When I was but a young child of 32. And it was written on board a jumbo jet, flying to America. And I was actually on my own for the first time ever, I think. And, no cell phones. So nobody could get hold of me. And I had led the most hectic, frantic life. And suddenly, I'm on a plane. And in that trip, it was a 2-month trip, I went to Los Angeles, then to Montreal. And I wrote 60 pieces, I think, in that 2-week period. And so this was on the plane on the way over, and this is what I thought about it then. Fat Yank, sallow Brit. We are flying jumbo to paradise. Manchester below, like an Aztec bead mosaic. Huitzilopochtli's eternal combat with Quetzalcoatl. A muted rainbow surges through thin grey clouds. Jan Garbarek transforms these notes into a chord simultaneously, and we are flying jumbo to paradise. Forever is smaller, seen from above. The horizon is the blue haze of holiday brochures, fingers of snow like salt, climb contourless hills, and in the third world, people can only lift the hoe, drag the plough, and shield their eyes when they gaze high and dream of flying jumbo to paradise. We move above the inequalities of the world, above clouds that are everything white, the snow-capping mountains of air, vanilla candy floss, bursting feather pillows, whipped cream frothing over coffee. I sip apple juice from a clear plastic cup, sailing above the world with conscience equally clear, and realise that my metaphors describe not only the everything of white clouds, but the mentality of everyone alive. More hills, a river, reservoirs, the revelation of two-dimensional terrain, cloud shadows that exist only to those in the air, and Scottish hills like fiberglass constructions on show in a conceptual gallery to share with us the meaning of everything. Sallow Brits, Yanks, with the garnish and gaudiness of this new Rome, and their ridiculous respect for our rotting culture. And we are flying jumbo to perdition and to paradise, and of course, to California.
That's really interesting, sort of meditation. That strange time, like you say, sort of frantic life, and then for several hours, you are moving, yeah, and there's a kind of, you're clearly moving incredibly fast, and yet there's nothing happening. And so all those, it's a really, I love the way it's sort of, you filled that space with all these different thoughts and images and sort of rational thoughts and metaphors and yeah.
It was an astonishing visual experience, and I remember, because it's an 11-hour flight, and I never sleep on aeroplanes, and so the hostess, stewardess, whatever was proper to call them at that time, I'm not what's the politically correct term, would keep coming by and saying, would I pull my window blind down? And I was going,
right.
No. And you get these little circular rainbows, of course, up in the air. And so I was just absolutely transported. But yes, there was this sense of how privileged I am to be able to do this. And this would be an absolute dream to people who are sort of down there working in the Scottish hills or whatever they do. But there are a series of poems, in fact, describing the whole journey that obviously we got through Manchester and over a bit of Scotland for some reason. But there's Greenland and Prince Rupert Island and the Great Slave Lake, all of those. Sort of half of your journey is over Canada. You just don't realise how big Canada is until you so-called polar route. Yeah.
Interesting. And that phrase, forever is smaller when seen from above. I thought there's a whole poem in that.
Oh, yes.
That phrase alone. Yeah. It is worth recording. A friend and I live at the top of a hill. At its bottom is a bar. We like a swift pint there now and then. It is less than a mile away, or nearly a mile away, depending on which one of us you are. She cannot fathom why I walk there. I cannot understand why she drives. She offers me a lift each time, and I reply, drive past me. She is bewildered that I refuse the convenience. I am exasperated that the walk should feel so hard. If we are so unable to understand such a small thing in such a good friend, then I am proud to be of a species that, when you think of it this way, makes a surprising success of peace. It is a thought I rarely have, and it is worth recording.
Yeah, wonderful. is worth recording. And that sense of, nearly a mile and less than a mile that we do. It's something, I got very interested in different words for brevity. And there are so many different words for something being sententious or something being short. And they all have a different inference. And that led me into words, this is many years ago, words for anxiety. That somebody can be concerned about something, they can be anxious about something, or they can be paranoid about something. And it's the perspective of the person describing what's happening and how we live inside that. That I feel anxious, or I feel concerned, or I feel paranoid. And so less than and nearly, that same discrimination, sort of discrimination.
Yeah.
Right, this is a war poem. It's about the Battle of Faluja during the occupation of Iraq, which was a very savage piece of work. And it moves between Stanley Spencer, the phenomenal English painter Stanley Spencer, who was a conscientious objector in the First World War and worked, therefore, with ambulances, as did Vaughan Williams. Several famous people did this. And they were given this job really as a kind of payback for being conchies, because they would get to pick up bits of corpses and take them back. Stanley Spencer's response to that can be seen in his astonishing war paintings, which I think are the great paintings. Some of Nash's stuff is good, but they really show his response. And there's a chapel that he decorated with paintings, and I think it's at the altarpiece these crosses, white crosses that build out of. It's called a resurrection. You've got people climbing out of their graves and this sort of thing, which gets a little bit of a mention. So I'm thinking between World War One, Stanley Spencer, and Faluja, and what happened there. But I don't know why. So, but I was very annoyed, and that can happen. Don't like people killing other people. It could be just something personal to me. I don't know. But I think it's wrong. But Stanley gathers the bomb-blasted fragments, ready for resurrection. The butchers sharpen their missiles, turning Iraqis into so much topside, so much rump steak. The bosses wave and smile to their old friend, the camera, and reassure us, lest we had any qualms, that God is on their side. I'll take no side with them, says God. How could men be such twisted fools? Stanley, gather the slabs of flesh, and give each soul a cross, and up the ladder of crosses they climb from Flanders Field, from the gaping horror once Faluja, while the very devil waves and smiles to his friend, the camera, as we burst into star-eyed applause.
That's a very, very good, effective, both angry and wry poem. Yeah. This is called I am sometimes bored by my rational side, but what if my childhood had not trained it so well? Enter José Arcadio Buendia and Ursula Iguarran, fictional husband and wife, as metaphor.
What a great title.
Reading 100 Years of Solitude, I relax into the soft spot I hold for José Arcadio Buendia in the swamp, for his unfettered fascinations, for his string of manias. And it occurs to me that, like him, I could by now be chained to a tree somewhere, if it were not for the Ursula in me, that other part patient, reliable, world-facing, and I am all of those things for so much of the time. Without the pin-tucking reasoning shaping me as I grew, and seeping into my capillaries to run now coolly through them, I could strip your house of metals to transform into gold. I could set your clothes on fire with a lens in the sun. I could be tied, blurting foreign by my neighbours, to that tree out there, the chestnut, to save you all from havoc. But should that ever come about, my Ursula will build me a shelter of palm leaves and keep me quietly alive.
It's just brilliant.
Oh.
And if you haven't read 100 Years of Solitude by Marquez, read it. It's wonderful. And, of course, Love in the Time of Cholera, nothing about it. And just to finish off on a pleasant note. So, again, this hails back to 1988, the 18th of February, so the day after the other poem. This is after I've arrived in Woodside, California, and staying with a friend there, Frank Labode, who lived in this phenomenal house, which on one side you had Barbra Streisand and on the other side you had Steve Jobs. You couldn't see them because of the woodland, and the deer would wander through, and it was an amazing place to stay in. And I'd like to thank Sarge Gabodi very much for putting me up the various times he did. This is the second time I stayed there, in fact. So there I am, very happy from jet lag. Composing myself, my clock ticking, the California morning. I come back to unpack the past like a forgotten suitcase, brimful with my own carefully folded clothes. 2 spots of sunlight ripple on the quiet swimming pools, and I inhabit the almost silence of birdsong and inescapable beauty. A single and seamless mystical experience of life remembers itself. Composing myself, my mind like a sculptor's hand, slowly caressing, seeking to comprehend the polished marvel of some venerated predecessor. The present is the constant juncture of so many pasts, the constant changing fusion of forever. One bright spot of sunlight, as I entranced try to write myself awake in this dream. Glints of sunlight, dots of pure colour on the web at the window, the leaves perfecting their organic tai chi. A squirrel pauses on a huge limb of the most immediate tree, and I balk at my incapacity to express these beautiful moments. Before the pools, the leaves of a small shrub are red, orange, green, illuminated. The woods circle us, the sky shines, and the cosmic sense and nonsense shakes itself awake. Just you're waking up in the morning on the first day of, and because I'm a night person, I normally sleep till noon, and so shifting my clock 8 hours, it meant I woke at 4 a.m.
Right.
And there I was, sat there with nobody else around, and in this amazing setting.
Yeah. Lovely.
Well, now, we seem to have reached the end.
I think we have, yes, of our very small selection. There you go.
Yep, and there will be more. Thank you very much for your attention, your time, and the pleasure of your company.
Thank you. I'm Ursula Wake.
I'm Jon Atack, and this has been Lyrical Wax.
Bye.
Bye-bye.